I'm going to talk a little bit about this album today, this box set. That's the 4 LP and 1 Blu-ray disc collection. The 4 LPs, so if you're a Springsteen fan, you'll know all about this Nebraska celebration. The first LP is a selection of outtakes from the same sessions that which Nebraska was recorded at. Then when he went into the studio to electrify these tracks, because they were kind of, I think, initially produced as some sort of kind of demos, and he tried to present them to just a couple of members of the band and create some sort of a band arrangement for them. And that's represented here by Electric Nebraska. I'll say more about that in a minute. Then, I believe it's April in 2025, he set up an empty theatre, Count Basie Theatre in New Jersey, and reproduced the Nebraska album track by track. Same arrangements. I'll talk a little bit about that as well. And then there's a 2025 remaster of the original album. So Nebraska, a few things to say. I think I discovered Springsteen in '79 after a friend of mine lent me Darkness on the Edge of Town, and I was blown away by it. The thing that kind of austere sound that came from that album, it was very, very intense lyrically, a lot of social commentary. It was right up my street. Absolutely loved it. And when The River came out in 1980, the double LP, the monster double LP, I thought it was absolutely fantastic. And that, if you're familiar with that album, if you're a long-time Springsteen fan, you will be. But it had a great selection of rockers, but more importantly, had some fantastic slower tracks. I'm loath to call them ballads, but the slower tracks, Wreck on the Highway, Drive All Night, Point Blank, Independence Day, absolutely wonderful. And when he came on tour to Europe in 1981, I was super lucky to get a ticket for the Newcastle gig in May. And I was like 2 rows back from the front of the center of the balcony, which, if you know Newcastle City Hall, it's almost like right on the stage, and it was an almost 4-hour concert. Absolutely fantastic. And then I think about 6 weeks later, after he'd been around Europe, I saw him again at the new National Exhibition Centre, the NEC in Birmingham, where I remember, I think, phoning a friend afterwards and saying, he played Jungleland. Absolutely amazing again. And so when there was talk of a new album coming out, that was to be Nebraska, I was so excited. And when it arrived and I bought it, day of release, I was so disappointed. It was, as you know, it's kind of super austere, lo-fi recording, him and a guitar. Obviously, you know the story of it being recorded in a rented house after he came off the River tour. And I just thought, I was so up for another rock album, another thing that kind of, like the River, fairly closely represented what one of his live shows was like at the time. Anyway, I've grown to love the album. I think Nebraska is an absolutely fantastic album, but it almost like cleared the decks and made way a year later for Born in the USA, which became the monster hit that it was. And I love that too. In fact, I probably overplayed it, so I don't listen to that very much these days. Although when I do see Springsteen live, things like Bobby Jean, Dancing in the Dark, maybe Born in the USA itself, Downbound Train, they're all fantastic songs, aren't they? And, well, apart from Glory Days, that is. And so, but there's kind of a myth around this Nebraska album that Springsteen kind of went into the studio to produce some demos for the live band, for the E Street Band. And what you get on the album are his demos. But that's not really the case, because over the years, I think particularly in the 1990s, I hoovered up dozens and dozens and dozens of bootlegs. And I've got a couple here. This one's called A Fistful of Dollars, and they're in little plastic sleeves now. But this is the track listing. So what have we got on here? we have super early versions of these songs. Vietnam, which opens this particular CD, is Born in the USA, and it's one of its earliest incarnations. Johnny 99, Downbound Train, Used Cars, multiple versions of Born in the USA. Club Soul City, which he gave to Gary U.S. Bonds for his second album of the 1980s after dedication. Atlantic City, Fade to Black, Bye Bye Johnny, and so on and so forth. This is really rough. This is him with maybe a cassette recorder and an acoustic guitar, just really searching out the early manifestations of these songs. That really, none of these are fully formed, but interesting. So there was a lot of work that went in to creating these songs before Nebraska proper got actually recorded. And this is a really nice selection of another kind of a bootleg, which is Alone at Colt's Neck, the complete Nebraska session. Well, it isn't quite complete. There's a couple of tracks missing. Working on the Highway is not on here. But you've got here Downbound Train, of course, Born in the USA, Losing Kind, Pink Cadillac, Deputy, which is Highway Patrolman, Child Bride, which again appears on this one. So I've known these tracks for 30 years, I would think, and I've just loved them all the way through. But it is really, really good to have them presented here, or some of them presented here in this package here on vinyl, which is just, it is absolutely wonderful. Now, there's lots of other reviews of this box set that's kicking out there. Things that I might want to kind of share with you. It's got a great essay. It's got the lyrics. It's beautifully presented, glossy photographs, hardback cover, which is really robust. It's very, very good. And 4 LPs that, as far as I can tell, having played 3 of them, are pressed really, really well as well. They do come in a paper sleeve, and I put them into the my regulation kind of plastic rice paper versions, like here. But they've got heavy duty card sleeves printed. Well, they're black on black paper or black card, and they're pretty good. They're not bad actually. They're for something that's not poly-lined, they're really good. So what do I think about the individual albums? So first thing to say is that the outtakes are presented here in as good an audio as you could possibly hope to get, with the exception of the second track. Let me just find it. Don't want to get this wrong. Here we go. On the Prowl. On the Prowl, the lyrics are pretty indecipherable as he's singing them, but it's pretty good anyway. But you've got Losing Kind, or Born in the USA opens it. It's a brilliant version. I'll come back to that one as well. Losing Kind, Downbound Train, Child Bride, Pink Cadillac, The Big Payback, Working on the Highway, On the Prowl, and Gun in Every Home. And all bar On the Prowl sound really, really good. But that's still, really good. On the Prowl still sounds pretty decent. Working on the Highway, the arrangement there's pretty much the same as the one that appeared on Born in the USA, although the title track Born in the USA is very different. The second LP, which is Electric, is kind of rather understated. I think he's got Gary Talent and Max Weinberg pretty much only in this studio for all bar one of the tracks. You got Nebraska, Atlantic City, Mansion on the Hill, Johnny 99, Downbound Train, Open All Night, Born in the USA, and Reason to Believe. Reason to Believe is really good. It's really committed performance. But Atlantic City and Johnny 99 have been in the live set for years and years and years, and those of us who are long-term fans are very familiar with those arrangements as well. But it's pretty good. It's not the bombastic Born in the USA sound, not in the slightest. It's still got that very sparse sound, but it's pretty good. The third LP within this set is the live re-recording from Count Basie Theatre in Red Bank, New Jersey. That's Springsteen, age 76 or something now, whatever he is. And he runs through all of the tracks on the album in the sequence that appears on the original down there. What do I think about it? Well, it's kind of nice. It's a bit of a curio. It's nice in that you get to hear same arrangements, but with a more aged voice, and he's in great voice on this particular recording as well. So you do get the more mature voice from Springsteen, and it's good, but the arrangements are just the same. And if you put me on the spot, I'd say I don't see the point. I really don't. Those of us who saw him on the Tom Joad and Devils and Dust tour, and here's a bootleg from Philadelphia from the Devils and Dust tour. You can get a chance if you freeze the video. You may be able to see what the track listing there is there. Devils and Dust, Ties That Bind, Highway 29, Incident on 57th Street, and he's at the piano. He's playing guitar. And the final track, Dream Baby Dream, the suicide track, he's playing a pump organ, and he plays electric piano here and there as well, but it's mostly acoustic guitar. These shows were absolutely magnificent, and what made them really, really good, apart from his engaging the audience, was the arrangements were all kind of mixed up. He played some games with the microphone where he'd use a vintage microphone, so a super distorted sound. I mean, the opening track on this particular bootlegs called it's Born in the USA, but you'd barely recognize it because his vocal sounded like it was recorded in the 1920s, and he did that on several of the tracks on this particular show, or the shows on this tour. But everything is kind of really interesting. So when it comes to the Count Basie recording in April this year, my feelings is that I'm probably not going to go back and listen to that very often, and I think it's a real missed opportunity. What he could have done is also recorded some of the outtake tracks like Child Bride and Losing Kind, or he could have, even Born in the USA is not even on there. He could have really kind of done something a lot more interesting, replicating a solo live show like he did on that Broadway set, but he didn't. So I kind of think it's pointless, really. So anyway, and I've not listened to the new remaster. I've heard a couple of reviews saying that it's cut a little bit too hot. There's a bit too much distortion here and there. But I've got so many different versions of Nebraska, including a remaster from 10 years ago or whatever. I don't need a new one. So I might not even listen to that. So there we go. Do I think it's worth buying? I think, well, it probably is if you're a Springsteen completist. If you're a more casual fan, I wouldn't go anywhere near Nebraska until you're fully steeped into the Springsteen's world. Which brings me on to the movie Delivering Me from Nowhere. I've not seen it. I've watched a lot of reviews. I've also watched a lot of clips, and I can say the more I see, the less I want to go and see the movie. And I've got a problem generally with biopics, especially when there's mountains of footage available of the real artist that is available to us on YouTube or DVD, Blu-ray, whatever it might be. We've all seen Springsteen talking, performing, and I didn't go and see ABBA's Mamma Mia either because I didn't want an earworm of a familiar track being butchered by someone doing a karaoke version. Now, I'm not suggesting that Deliver Me From Nowhere, that the actor there is doing that, because I think from what I hear his performance is truly committed and very, very competent. But I just don't see how I can suspend my disbelief enough to really get in there and just lose myself in the movie. I'm familiar with the story of Nebraska, the recording of Nebraska, the circumstances. I've read multiple reviews, features, loads of biographies, his own memoir. So I know about his mental health difficulties, and this desire to kind of just not be on the treadmill doing another River. He wanted to have a pause in his career and offer something that's a bit more rustic and put out there. So I'm familiar with that one. And besides as well, these biopics, I don't think they're made for people who are the committed fans, because it's all about getting bums on seats and getting a financial return from the investment that's made. So they're necessarily kind of a little bit kind of summarized. I wouldn't say it's necessarily a cartoon version, but it's not a real deep dive into what was really going on. And credit to the producers here for not making a movie about his whole career, because that would be so superficial it wouldn't be even worth switching on at all. So this is it's good that they're focusing on Nebraska, but for somebody who's been a committed fan now for 45 years or more, it's more now. I don't think I need it, so I'm unlikely to go and see it. But I do hear that people are enjoying it. I'm trying to persuade people to go and see it who aren't committed fans, because you see beyond the caricature of Springsteen as a muscle-bound, born in the USA bellower on stage in the mid-1980s. You see a much more introspective Springsteen, which is kind of characterized within this album. And again, also in Devils and Dust and the Ghost of Tom Joad. Coming back to that new live performance, it would have been nice to pick the tracks from later on in his career that tap into that Flannery O'Connor kind of noir fiction movie type narrative, and just like Highway 29 would be a good one from Tom Joad to drop into a new recording. But I can see the concept has been limited the way it has been. But it's much better value as a vinyl package than the Lost Albums release that came out a few months ago. So I would recommend it, but not for the casual fan. My thoughts on Nebraska, the new box set. See you soon.